Okay, Lucy. So last night on Survivor, that was one of the most shocking exits I've ever seen, and I've seen every episode. What was going through your mind when David stood up and played his idol?
Oh my God, I just thought, holy shit. I'm like, I can't believe what's happening right now because everything was going the way it was supposed to be, and I just thought, wow, what is this guy doing? I had no idea that he would play it for Jessica.
Yeah, because you actually did what you set out to do. I mean, you wanted to get the vote to get out Jessica, and that worked. I mean, your mission was accomplished as far as you were concerned, right?
Yeah, I definitely felt like got the things done that I needed to get done. I, was able to get everybody to vote against her, almost everybody. Geez, like nothing could have been better that day, but the insecurities started coming up at the end when I did know that, Ken spoke to Jessica and Jessica came up to me and I was like, okay, this is what I was trying to prevent was all this chaos. That's why I said don't talk about it because everybody's now going to get all emotional and insecure. And what really mattered is that we just all make it to the swap.
And do you kind of blame Ken for being the one to spoil your plans, or I mean, basically, if he hadn't done that, it would have gone your way, right?
Yeah, I think that if he didn't spoil it, if he didn't talk about it, if he didn't talk to Dave and Cece about it, that would have went that way. I think that Cece was okay voting Jessica off, but then Ken started, I think, implanting in their minds like, okay, Lucy's trying to be the boss now. Now Lucy's trying to tell us what to do. We just got rid of Paul. Now we don't need somebody else telling us what to do. And I think them being like the three underdogs, they were, listening to Ken. And it made sense to them at that point of what was happening. Like Dave was like, okay, and Cece was okay, even though like I felt basically betrayed by all of them because at one point Cece and she told me to, confide in her and tell her and that if her name was being, brought up and I know that she was feeling insecure about her name being on a chopping block every week, but I was honest with her that day, and I said, hey, we're all voting for Jess. Don't worry, it's not you. And I did the same thing with the other two. But I guess my message just came across too bossy.
Right. Are you a huge fan of Survivor? Like, is this a show that you watch with your family throughout all of the years?
I mean, I've watched it here and there, and obviously, because I have a family and a business, I don't watch that much TV anymore. But I feel like my whole life is about, it's a social life. I'm a competitor, so I have a lot of, like just different groups that I am with all the time. So the competitors, a lot of females that range from their 20s and up. And then I own, a business and we have about 200 employees and all their personalities are different. I have 4 children, so I'm dealing with 4 different personalities at home. So I'm constantly in that aspect of like having to strategize and, be able to have these relationships with different people and adapt to different situations. And I really feel like that's what, Survivor is a lot of.
Right. And so over the past 24 hours, what have you been hearing from fans and from your family and your friends about what went down at Tribal? Because it really was one of the, I would say besides the cyclone in the premiere, this was the most jaw-dropping moment that I think people are going to want to be talking about.
Yeah, I think that, well, obviously my husband's like so pissed off at Dave, but I think that most of it is that people don't understand what David was doing. And the other thing is the fact that, actually I got a lot of love yesterday. It was like, oh my God, I want to see more of Lucy. Okay, now finally, she's playing her moves and, they wanted to see what I did and they were quite impressed with what happened. And, unfortunately it didn't go far enough, but for everybody and for myself, I felt, okay, I'm pretty proud of that moment because of the fact that I only got 2 votes, so I really wasn't supposed to be voted off, and the fact that I was so much of a threat to somebody that they had to use an immunity idol that early on in the game. So that to me was like, okay.
Right, I was very impressed.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was really impressed, like, as a viewer, how you were able to completely take over that tribe as soon as Paul was gone. and what you wanted to happen, would have happened if not for this asterisk next to David with the idol. I was curious, were you behind the decision last week to get Paul out, or was that almost completely Jessica?
No, I was. I remember, some of my interviews that I did. I absolutely wanted Paul out. I didn't know who was going to bring it up first, but the minute that Jess brought it up, I was like, yeah, I'm on board. It wasn't even like a second thought. It was like, yeah, that's what I wanted, so I'm going with it because that's what I wanted. It's not, she didn't have to sway my vote in any way. It was seriously like, okay, I wanted that to happen, so let's make it happen. And because somebody mentioned it, I was like, okay, cool. We're on board. And I think that everybody eventually wants him out, but they just didn't know when to get him out.
And what did you make of the whole Gen X versus millennials twist? Some people are really loving it. Some people are like, maybe not.
I like the twist as far as being able to see how the different generations do certain things. And a good example is like the puzzles. It showed the fact that they can actually stand back and just kind of look at it and work it out in their heads and then, get to work on it versus the Gen X like us. We're so used to working with our hands that, we made a bigger mess. It took us longer. Instead of just kind of sitting back and like using our brain and saying, okay, what can happen? Let's work it out in our heads and then get to work. So sometimes maybe the Gen X, we do more work that doesn't need that much work, if that makes any sense.
Right. And let's pretend you're on the jury. Who would you vote for to win the $1 million? Like, who are you really rooting for now as you're watching it on TV each week?
Oh, I'm rooting for Chris. For sure, Chris. Chris is
okay.
Such
and how
a
come?
great
How
guy.
come?
He is definitely not only strong, but he has a big heart. He definitely, they showed the peanut butter and bean jelly, the summit when they went to the summit, and he was one of the fortunate ones that went and able to eat like the peanut butter and jelly. When they got back, they actually said, hey, we ate already. You guys can have our, portions of the rice today. But not only that, he actually went fishing for us, and he went fishing for about 2 hours, and he caught fish for us. And, normally I don't think that anybody else would have done that because most everybody's like kind of like watching out for themselves. And if you've already eaten and you're already, tired from being on the island, you wouldn't go out and do something for somebody else like that. And he actually went fishing and literally did not eat any of it and just fished for the rest of us that were on the island that didn't get to go to the peanut butter summit. And so that to me was like totally and completely like, I admire that so much. And moving forward,
Nice.
yeah, he's strong. He's also likable.
And so on the other end of the spectrum, who do you hope goes out next? Who do you hope follows you out the door?
Oh my God, do you even need to ask?
Dave. I was thinking maybe Dave or maybe Ken, because Ken, by doing what he did, that kind of put this whole thing in motion.
I know that, but at the end of the day, he changed his vote to not vote for me, so I knew that he actually understood who I was at the end. And, again, it taught me, like, okay, I just needed to, it wasn't the message that was wrong, it was how I approached it. You know what I mean? The way I spoke to him. So it taught me that, too, and actually I was able to have a conversation with Ken prior to going into tribal.
Awesome. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for talking to us and putting up with all the background noise here on my part. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
But we will see you at the reunion show in a couple months here.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thanks.